A lot of questions have risen recently over the whole stubble burning and the subsequent air pollution issue that comes about in the capital city of New Delhi. What are considered as a great alternative to stubble burning are biogas plants. It has now been almost a year since the biggest biogas plant has been set up in Punjab. The biogas plant is set up in a mechanism wherein instead of burning Parali, one can convert it into biogas. How effective is the plant in achieving what it is supposed to achieve? We have with us Ashish Kumar, who is the managing director of Verbio India, that had helped in the setup of this plant. Let us talk to him. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us, Ashish. Well, it's been a year since you have set up this plant. How have the operations gone on so far?
Verbio is basically a German biofuel producer. This is Verbio's first production unit in the Asian region, and it's the plant what we have set up in Punjab is Asia's largest biomethanation capacity, which is 100% based on paddy straw. We commissioned the plant in May 2022, so it's roughly more than a year now. The operations have been slowly ramping up. We are currently operating at about one third of our capacity. So it has been a slow start, but it is stabilizing quite gradually. And I would see that in the next 6 months, we will be ramping up to about 50% of our production capacity. So that's been the start so far.
Ashish, is there an estimate of sorts on how much stubble burning you have managed to stop and how much biogas has been produced?
So the factors of biogas production and the feedstock, that is basically the stubble which we use for the production of biogas, they are linked. Our plant capacity is 33 tons of gas production per day, and this can be produced with an annual consumption of 120,000 tons of feedstock, which means straw. Now, purely from a capacity point of view, with this kind of consumption demand, what our plant has, we are able to take care of 50,000 acres of farmland, which can stop stubble burning. And that is the impact capacity like ours will have on the, let's say, the farming area around the plant. So 50,000 acres is what we are talking about. But so far, since the plant is not running on full capacity, we are able to impact roughly about 15 to 20,000 acres. That is the current impact what we have.
And Ashish, also talk about the mechanism that has been put into place to collect the stubble from farmers.
The stubble collection, okay, I mean, we are primarily talking about paddy straw, and we talk about paddy straw because currently it has no other application. And that is primarily the reason why it gets burnt. The time window for the collection of paddy straw is very, very small. In our catchment area, and when I say catchment area, we are talking about 15-20 kilometers of the plant. The harvesting of paddy normally starts in the month of October. It would start, let's say, more or less around mid of October. And by now, as in today we are 11th of November, the harvesting is almost over. So the window we get is roughly about, let's say, plus minus 4 weeks. And in this 4 weeks, we have to collect this entire volume, which we have to use in the whole year of production. So it is a heavy demand on mechanization. I mean, the more machinery we have on the ground is the more number of, the more volume we are able to collect. So the way we have managed is we have invested completely into the assets which are used for the collection of the straw, the stubble. We have created our own storage infrastructure. So everything is at the moment owned and operated by us. We went this way because primarily the quality of the stubble has to be very, very well controlled, which basically means the moisture level of the stubble has to be below 20%, or let's say below 25%. Otherwise, to manage a very high moisture quality of stubble is extremely difficult for the production process, and it slows down the complete process from a pure production point of view. So quality control is super critical, and we could not find any other solution, third party solutions or via aggregators, where we are able to get that quality of straw, and of course at a cost which fits into the business case. So the complete supply chain management is currently owned and operated by us.
Ashish, also talk about the process. How is paddy converted into biogas and then supplied?
The steps which one has to follow, and that's typically which most of the CBG or the compressed biogas producers would be doing, dealing with this kind of an organic waste. It has to go through a first is a pre-treatment process, which basically means it is a mechanical downsizing of the stubble which needs to be done, and after that it goes through an anaerobic digestion process, right, which is uh, that's where the stubble gets digested by the bacterias, which is in these large fermenter tanks or digester tanks. With the anaerobic digestion, we basically get raw methane. The raw biomethane comes out of the process, which is, let's say, roughly about 45 to 55% methane content. And after that, it has to go through a purification process wherein the methane levels are spiked up. We basically have to clean the CO2 and increase the methane from, let's say, 45-50%, and it goes to 90% plus. After the gas is purified, that is when it becomes eligible to be used for any kind of application, be it mobility, industrial, or commercial applications. And then, depending on where your point of sale is, this is then supplied. Either you bring it directly into the grid, the gas grid, or you will have to compress it to a certain level. Like we compress it up to 250 bars, supply it using trucks and cascades into the gas stations, which are owned and operated by oil marketing companies like Indian Oil or GAIL or any of the city gas distribution companies. So that's, let's say, broadly the whole process which needs to be followed.
Ashish, you recently also met up with the Union Minister. Uh, when do you plan to set up the proposed 15 plants, and where will they be set up?
So, yes, we met the Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Shri Hardeep Puri ji, recently, in fact, last week only in Berlin. And we are quite positive on the sectoral development so far. And the prime reason is the kind of policy framework which is being developed, spearheaded by the MOPNG, is extremely progressive. And we see that the next coming months are going to be quite positive for this particular sector, for CBG sector. Now, coming to the plants, what we talked about, 15 plants, we are currently in the process of identifying locations. Um, uh, of course, the northern belt is the usual suspect because of the rich amount of feedstock which is available. But we are considering a lot of factors. So it's not just the feedstock. We also need to look at the gas grid connectivity. I mean, these two definitely are one of two of the key criterias. So we plan these 15 plants, I would imagine, over the next 3 to 5 years is what we are looking at. And these are large industrial scale units. We are always talking about large industrial scale plants. We are not looking at small, mid-sized plants. And when I say large, we are talking about at least 25 to 30 tons per day of gas production per day. That's the kind of size we are looking at. And these are also quite capex investment heavy projects. Each project comes with an investment of roughly about, depending on the scale, it will range between 20 to 25 million euros. So that's the scale of investment we are looking at.
Right, and how much area of stubble can one plant realistically process, according to you?
Depending, of course, with the assumption that all plants are using stubble, because you can use different kind of feedstocks, right? So the assumption being that paddy or a stubble which does not find any other application today is being used as a feedstock. A plant of large scale capacity should be able to manage between 40 to 50,000 acres of reduced burning every year. That is the impact it has.
And Ashish, do you feel more incentives should be given to the farmers and that will help you collect more stubble for processing?
We have a different take on this. Somehow the narrative is that our impression, I mean, we are working right now, as we speak, we are working with roughly about 1,500 to 2,000 farmers directly without any intermediary in between. Our experience and impression is that the farmer is extremely supportive, cooperative in this entire process, and he is the last one who would want to really burn the stubble. The challenge really is the small time window he has between harvesting of paddy and the sowing of wheat, which is the next crop, which cannot be delayed beyond a certain time window. I would expect this whole topic of stubble burning to be systematically addressed with a proper governance structure. And this is where I think work needs to be done more at a state government level rather than keep pushing the buck to the farmer. We have never come across a single farmer till date who is wanting to burn the stubble. He does not want to burn the stubble. He burns it because he has no other option. So the government, the central government is doing a very good work in terms of developing a policy framework which attracts, projects and investments. But then the implementation is down at the state government level. If everything is perfect at the central and it is not getting properly implemented at the state, it doesn't work. And we will always keep blaming the farmer for this activity. And I mean, we do this every year. We start this process, and after 6 weeks, everybody forgets it. Delhi also forgets it after, this whole smog and I think you and me, everybody is listening to this narrative for the last so many years. We talk about it around Diwali, we forget it before Christmas, and that's about it. Yeah. And then again, the next year's cycle begins. Our message or our experience is very clear. The state government really needs to implement it. And like we have, instead of penalizing farmers, it's the state governments who have to be really held accountable for something like this. The farmer, my clear message here is the farmer is extremely positive, supportive, doesn't want to burn stubble, but we have to give him opportunities wherein he can get rid of the stubble. We have to bring in the industry, biomass-based power plants, CBG units, other applications which can actually use this stubble. If we don't give him options, then we can't hold him completely responsible also that why is he burning? I mean, he has no option.
And finally, Ashish, how was the support from the government? Any challenges that you felt that, can be dealt with?
For the compressed biogas sector, we get an excellent support from the central government. I mean, we interact very actively with the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Agriculture, New and Renewable Energy, Department of Fertilizer, as well as Drinking Water Sanitation Department. These are the bodies which typically a CBG sector player is working with at the central level. That is developing well. The policies are coming out quite progressively. But I think the challenges are still there at the implementation level. And by that, I mean, we need a similar kind of support at the state, because in a typical Indian federal structure, the same bodies get mirrored in the states also. And since this sector is very close to agriculture, because it is based on agriculture, we need a similar kind of progressive support from the state agriculture departments specifically. That is one. On the second hand, we have the gas offtake development, which is implemented by the oil and gas marketing companies, public, private, irrespective. Now, that is also where a lot of effort, investments, and support has to come from. So, these are the two sides wherein we would expect a lot more support to be implemented on the ground. One from the state government side, and then coming from the oil and gas marketing companies. This is still a lot of work which needs to be done for investors to feel absolutely convinced to come out with their investments in the, I mean, these are really rural, remote areas of the country, and these are not the largest consumption centers. So if there is not enough offtake opportunities, we will need physical infrastructure in the form of gas grids to be there. So a lot of investment needs to be coming in terms of building up this physical infrastructure. So these are the two aspects I would like to highlight, wherein the challenges are still quite significant.
Ashish, appreciate you joining us. Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya, President of Center for Digital Economy and Policy Research, with us on the program. Indra Shekhar Singh, agricultural expert, also with us on the program. Indra, I'll begin with you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Indra, we've had this, we've taken this deep dive with Ashish. We have understood, what the problems are when it comes to these machines that can be used to get rid of Parali. But the fact of the matter is that all of these solutions will not qualify for any kind of a change that we see in the environment unless and until, there is this impetus and push by the government towards the farmer and their psyche to adopt and embrace this change. Do you think that is perhaps the biggest hurdle that we have to deal with right now? Because, this is not a practice which has just originated. It's been going on for a long time. It's been, comfortably, echoing and resonating with the farmer. It will take time for them to adopt it. But the problem, the conundrum is, Indra, that we don't have that kind of time.
See, first of all, I would like to say that there needs to be an immediate need for MSP on the Paralis. There needs to be an immediate MSP announcement for all the straw that's being cut after the Kharif. Haryana has done that. It's about time Punjab does it. We need that 2,000 rupees price floor for Parali to actually exist. And from next year, you will see it will not be 6% anymore. The Parali pollution levels will go down to 3 or maybe 2% as soon as we announce an MSP. Now, the points that Ashish has highlighted, I've already spoken about these points many, many times, that if you want to encourage allied industries, and I'm not just talking about biogas, I'm talking about biochar, I'm talking about a mushroom, I'm talking about sustainable packing. There's a whole universe of allied industries that can be connected to the farmer. Now, I think some of the problems that he's highlighted are very, very right, because there's too much investment required. The government is not making any tax havens. The government is not allocating land, not creating clusters, not linking FPOs with these allied industries. And that's why the cost of production of any of such processes is very high. Ashish has just very well demonstrated that, the biogas production requires a heavy investment. Now, it's when will the time come when these technologies become more decentralized and more farmer accessible, that maybe every block or every 10 blocks together can have one of these factories which is processing everything that they're producing throughout the year. And and the other point is, I think it's a great effort to get biogas in, and India should experiment with everything. But we must also ensure that we get the maximum return on our tax rupee. So we should look at nature-based solutions also, because 50,000 acres is still very, very marginal. Even if we take those plants at full capacity, still there is a big gap that remains in covering all the stubble that's produced in Punjab and Haryana and other parts of North India. So there needs to be not just one approach, we need to have a multiple eye approach, where we are looking at industry also, we are looking at agro solutions, we are looking at nature solutions, and we are backing everything up with a price floor and maybe particular market yards where the corporations can go and buy the stubble, and the farmers can come and give the stubble. The government is no money of the government will be spent. But rather, when a strong allied industry is developed, the farmer and the industry can work together. The government can just ensure that the industries are not cheated and the farmers are not cheated. I think that's the only way forward here. And I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. This has already happened in many parts of the world. Why can't we do it here? And you're right that the only thing lacking, I think it's political will, because I think India has brains to send things to the moon and to Mars and everywhere else. Why are we still debating whether biogas? Why not get them all in? India, everyone wants to invest in India. The world is looking. Give a tax breaks in Punjab. Industries will come running. Ensure, ensure that you're not making it like an open dacoity for foreign firms and other things. Ensure that our interests are also protected. But why not give that cushion to the farmers and to industry? Why does it always have to be either or? You can either support industry or support farmers. I say, let's be fair. That's where the government comes in. Give industry what they want, give farmers what they want, and make this problem disappear like it should. Now, once again, I will say to the viewers that stubble burning only contributes 6% to the air pollution problem. But we can get that 6% pollution down in the next 5 years if we work with a sound policy keeping industry and farmers in mind.
That's a good point. Dr. Bhattacharya, Inder obviously is right that, we really don't need to reinvent the wheel. We have templates to pick from and reapply them in another, area. It's not even a different dimension. It's the same dimension, perhaps a different area that we need to do. Why do you think the political will has been lacking? Is this some sort, of shyness, for the lack of a better word, from the government when it comes to dealing with the farmer on sensitive issues?
Yeah, no, I totally agree that Chandrasekhar has articulated the issues extremely well and the solution to it. And, clearly the government dithers when it comes to farmers. In case a few farmers disagree or there is miscommunication and they protest, like what has happened in the past. And especially with elections around the corner, you don't want to take any step which might misfire. But if it is the middle class, everything is game then. NGT with great alacrity went down after the middle class saying we'll snatch away your cars, and that's what they did. But they wouldn't lift their little finger when it comes to the agricultural world. So I don't understand that dichotomy. If NGT is responsible for ensuring that there is no pollution and the environment is protected, and they can go after snatching very, very expensive cars from middle class, why can't they take action against the farmers? Second, again, I think something that Chandrasekhar articulated quite well, the economics has to work out. So you can't go around, tormenting farmers or tormenting middle class or tormenting anyone in a democratic setup and penalize them. You have to make the economics work. In fact, I have a few questions from Ashish. Probably he'll be able to answer. I find it very challenging to take care of the tipping cost of picking up the Parali and bringing it to the factory based on what we had done earlier with the municipal waste and of briquette factories and so on and so forth. All of them ran into the same issue, that the cost of collection and then bringing it to the factory, and that to 120,000 tons that he talked about, makes it sound that it may not be economically viable in future. It's more of a demonstration plant. I'll be glad to hear, and it'll be music in my ears, if it's economically viable. Then that's the solution. Then that's what we should roll out at a large scale. Also, if you look at let's say the jute production, which largely happens in the east, they cut the jute at a lower level and they simply plow it over, and it's buried into the soil, including the leaves of the jute, and it becomes a very fertile soil, and it actually adds to the soil value for the next crop. And in 14 days time, they're able to plant the next crop and get going. Why can't we figure out ways and means to cut the paddy stock at a lower level and do what is being done with jute? There surely should be other ways of doing it. Again, as I'm kind of picking up from everything that Chandrasekhar said, we need to look into the natural ways of managing the Parali problem. For sure, the government has a very strong role to play. And by government, I mean all the governments, the state governments, the central governments, also, people impacted in Delhi. We will be happy to pay money. We'll be happy to pay more taxes if it helps us breathe clean air. It's inhuman, and I would rather say goes against our fundamental rights of right to live. If we are not able to breathe clean air, it's almost death happening to us on a daily basis. The only other issue I want to point out is, the notion that agriculture contributes to 6% pollution. It is true in a way because it's annualized pollution. But when you look at it on the few months where it becomes extreme, it contributes much, much more than 6%. And I just want to hang it out there that we need to be mindful of the fact that when the burning happens, it's a very significant contribution to pollution that agricultural waste does. And also, I'm curious what happens to these plants when there is no Parali available, because Parali is not a 12-month product. So what happens when the paddy Parali is not available? How do these plants operate? I think these are some of the questions that needs to be answered. But most of the technologies, processes, precedences are available. It indeed is a matter of political will to take it forward and implement it.
Right, you're absolutely right. And there are solutions. But all we need at this point in time is perhaps a robust need to deal with this problem and eliminate it before it eliminates our health in a number of ways.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.